Welcome, everybody. I'm Sunshine. This is Teen Wolf, and this is the Lakelands football show. Let's get right into it this week. It's a very big, massively important week for a lot of teams in the area. In my short time here in the land of the lakes, I never have seen a week where there's so much up for grabs so late in the year. One game left for many teams in the area, all but Greenwood, are down to their last regular season game. And there's still a lot of playoff spots up for grabs, a lot of playoff positioning up for grabs still. It's going to be a very exciting week. In particular, in Region 2, 2A, the mammoth region all year that we've talked about, there's a lot of wiggle room, a lot of teams vying for spots still. Ethan Joyce has a foolproof method involving this notebook and some little sheets of paper. If you want more details on that, read my column this week. But what the madman figured out was there's 8 different scenarios involving these teams. 2 of the biggest games in that mess is 96 in Strom-Thurmond, Batesburg-Leesville at Saluda. What do you think?
Essentially, we know that Strom-Thurmond and Abbeville are locks. Everything else, like Andrew says, up for grabs. 96 been hacking at big opponents all year. It's going to be another tough game for them, another ranked opponent for them. You know, I talked to Coach Doolittle Wednesday, and he was saying that, we're used to coming back from losses at this point and trying to prepare for a new opponent. Personally, I think that if it's one game to get into the playoffs, I'm going to go with Mike Doolittle. I've been picking 96 all year. I'm not going to stray from that now. I think they're going to find their way into the playoffs. And, Andrew's going to be covering Batesburg, Leesville, and Saluda, and the impact of that game definitely affects what goes on in the game I'm going to be covering. So, Andrew, what do you think is going on in the Battle of the Backs?
Real quick about 96, eventually odds are they have to win one of these close games. They can't lose all of them, so I'm with you. I think 96, that edge of desperation they're going to have to get in is going to pull out a win. Saluda, Batesburg, Leesville. One of those teams is winning to get into the playoffs. The other one, with a loss, very well might miss the playoffs, which is a shame because 96, Batesburg, Leesville, and Saluda, probably 3 of the best teams in 2A. One of those teams may not make the playoffs, so it's really rough. Talking about Batesburg, Leesville, and Saluda, like Ethan said, Terrence Wilson for Batesburg, Leesville, Malik Brooks for Saluda, 2 of the best running backs in all of South Carolina high school football, and not just 2A.
Yeah.
I think both of those guys are going to get their yards. The game's going to come down to who controls the line of scrimmage a little bit better. Saluda's bigger on both sides. I'm going with the Tigers. So I'll let you decipher your mathematical equation. If 96 and Saluda wins, what happens?
96 and Saluda wins, and we're going to go under the assumption that Abbeville wins as well. All 3 teams will be in the playoffs. All 3 Lakeland teams will be in the playoffs, which would be a lot of fun for us.
Yeah, that would be great.
But it's like Andrew said, Saluda has to win to get in. The craziest part of it all is that, depending on how things fall, Batesburg-Leesville, a team that's been a top 10 team all year, could not make the playoffs. Batesburg-Leesville and Saluda are 2-7-2 teams. Who knows what if you take one of these teams and put them in a different region, who knows what you're dealing with. And I think that's going to bode well for them in the playoffs once they get away from each other a little bit.
So, yes, I agree totally. It's a convoluted mess in Region 2, 2A. It's also quite jumbled for the Emerald Vikings. There's a lot of teams with 2 losses in that region. Eastside's hanging around in there with 3. Emerald plays Eastside tonight. If Emerald loses, they may miss the playoffs. But they're guaranteed to get in if they win.
Definitely.
Do the Vikings win?
I think they win. They're riding a 2-game win streak. Even if they don't win, if Chapman wins, they still get in because they hold the advantage over Southside. Now, if Southside were to win and Emerald were to lose, I think everybody would have an advantage over Emerald, and they would be out of the playoffs.
So they need to win.
They do need to win.
Okay. Getting that out of the way, let's move on now to Greenwood. Their playoff scenarios are a little bit more vague since they have a game next week as well. No matter what Greenwood's playoff positioning is or could be or will be, they have to win. They've lost 2 games in a row to 2 teams that haven't beat them since the late 90s. I was a child back then.
I was definitely a child back then.
It's been quite some time since that has happened, losing to T.L. uneasily. They have a very tough opponent tonight in Westside, undefeated, ranked number 5. It's a tall task. I did not pick Greenwood in my column, but I'm going to flip around and pick Greenwood here. I think they finally get it together.
Because his face is on it, everybody.
I think they finally get it together and win at JW Pinky Bab Stadium.
To highlight a couple of other games going on, we got 2 games that are definitely not important in the sense of playoff structure, but Abbeville is going to be at Crescent. Christchurch is going to be at McCormick. McCormick has locked up a playoff spot. Abbeville has as well, as we mentioned earlier. So, Andrew, what do you feel like Abbeville's trying to accomplish in this game against Crescent?
Well, I think those kids have an ego where they want to win every game, so they definitely want to win. If they win and Strom Thurmond loses, they can still win the region. Crescent's banged up. I think Abbeville gets a win easily. We'll see if they win the region or not. Christchurch, McCormick. I would imagine Rush Snyder's going to rest some starters in a game that really means absolutely nothing for either one of those teams. Christchurch is probably going to prevail.
Yeah.
In another game, Fox Creek is at Cowan Falls. Cowan Falls most likely not making the playoffs. Fox Creek probably already is in there. So
yeah, they're definitely jockeying for that number 1 spot right now.
That game, not super important. Fox Creek probably gets a win there. Dixie's at Ridge Spring Minetta. Coach Travis Harris said he's nearly positive that they're mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. They're trying to get a win just to end their year on a high note. Whitmire's at Ware Shoals. Both of them are vying for the first win in their region. Unfortunately, I think Whitmire's got a little bit more in the tank. And then finally wrapping up the last game of the week, Greenwood Christian versus Lawrence Academy. Big 8-man rivalry.
The Christian Hawks are going to win it. We call them the Christian Hawks in the office. It's just more fun that way. And that's it for the Lakelands football show. As always, please read indexjournal.com or, hey, pick up a newspaper for you kids out there just to see one every once in a while. Follow us on Twitter, at IJ Ethan Joyce, at IJ Andrew Mackey, our sports editor, at IJ Michael Christopher. Also, I would like to say, if you do read Andrew's column on my little theory thing over here,
Tirade.
It wasn't as bad. I think his man bun was a little bit tight.